Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. Over the last few months, I've created a couple of videos in which I've offered up some feedback to CBCS. And in some of these videos, I've honestly been very critical of CBCS in an attempt to actually help them as a company. Now, I can tell you there are some people out there that have watched some of those videos and thought that I was being too critical for some reason or another. But let me tell you, that was not my goal. My goal was not to be critical and negative for the purpose of being negative and critical. I was providing constructive criticism, feedback, and advice to CBCS because I want them to succeed. That is, after all, what I want everybody that is associated with the comic book community to do. I want them all to be successful because I am a fan of competition. And I'm a fan of competition not because of the companies themselves, but because we as the consumer typically benefit when there's competition. And if we as the consumer benefits, then that means that the hobby is probably doing okay. So it is in that spirit that I've created the various videos in which I focus honestly on CBCS and also on CGC to say, hey, here's some things you might want to think about, some things to consider, some things to even do if you want to be successful. But in this video, what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some reasons why people should consider CBCS. Again, I have no dog in the fight. Doesn't matter to me whether you send your books to EGS, Halo, CGC, CBCS. It matters not to me, to be completely honest with you. I have no dog in the fight other than that of the consumer, other than giving the consumer choices with how they spend their money. So again, it is in that spirit that I wanted to create this video. Now, the very first reason why I think people should consider CBCS is because they are a solid, affordable option for getting comics graded. At the end of the day, part of the reason why we want to grade comics is, yes, the financial side, but it's also the protection and preservation. And CBCS offers a wonderful option for protecting and preserving comics, again, at an affordable price. And in fact, when you dig into the data, what you will see is that CBCS has actually split their modern comics into two groups. The first group are comics that have been released in the present day going back to 2001. And what you'll see is that they charge for a standard book, for a standard submission, $20 to actually grade that comic. But they've also carved out a specific modern tier, which encompasses books that are published from 2000 back to 1975. And in that tier, for the standard, they charge $24. So essentially, you can get a modern comic graded by CBCS from the present day, basically back to 1975, for somewhere between $20 to $24. And what's great is the max FMV for that book is $1,000. Now, that's a pretty high threshold, if you will, for books that you want to send in. That's a pretty high threshold, especially when you compare it to what CGC actually offers. Now, CGC doesn't split it out into the two tiers. They essentially have a single tier that encompasses books from the present back to 1975. But you'll notice that they actually have a lower threshold for that max fair market value. Their threshold is only $4, but they charge $24. So this is one of those moments where you can see a clear distinction between CBCS and CGC. CBCS has opted to break the modern tier up to make it a little more affordable to send in some of those modern comics. And again, with that high threshold of the fair market value of $1,000, that covers a lot of books. Again, contrast that to CGC where the tier is a little lower and the price is a little higher. This is a great way to protect and preserve your comics at an affordable price. For those that are not familiar with the term FMV, that essentially stands for the fair market value. And essentially what you want to do is you want to think about what is the fair market value of this comic if it were graded. And one easy way to determine the fair market value is to essentially reference a pricing guide. So you kind of have to guesstimate the grade of the comic. You have to reference it in a pricing guide or pricing service of some sort, and that will essentially tell you what the fair market value of that comic is, and that's how you determine potentially which tier you go down. And I say potentially because the tier is driven by the fair market value cap as well as the age of the comic. The next reason why someone should consider CBCS is if they have comics or collectibles in their collection that have been previously signed by an actor or a creator of some sort. And this is a huge advantage and a big, important differentiator in my mind. When it comes to CGC, any signature has to be witnessed in order to be certified, if you will. And it has to be witnessed by an employee of CGC or someone that is authorized to actually witness that signature. CBCS, on the other hand, will allow people to send in comics that have been previously signed, and they will verify those signatures. So this, to me, is a competitive advantage that gives a lot of credit to what CBCS actually has to offer. There are a lot of people out there that want the benefits that come with graded comics, but they don't necessarily want the encapsulation. And I kind of sort of get that. By having a comic graded by a professional grader, it takes a lot of the subjectivity out of the grade of that book. It's been evaluated by a professional has certified it at a certain grade. One of the great things that CBCS offers is raw grading. You can literally send in a comic to CBCS. They will do everything that they normally do except for the final step of encapsulation. So instead of sealing the comic in the acrylic case, what they will do is they will put it in a Mylar and they will put a seal on it. And again, it's just that last step that they skip. And so this is a great way, an affordable way for people to protect, preserve their comics, but to also have them certified by a third-party grader, which puts you in a position in some ways to actually be able to sell that comic should you choose to go down that path. Or you can just have it in your collection and know that you've essentially had a certified book. So this, again, is a differentiator in my mind. It's something that CBCS, I think, needs to play up a little bit more and talk about a little bit more. But this is an awesome service for a lot of those folks that do not like encapsulation. And there are a lot of people out there. The last and final point that I will make about this is, as I stated at the beginning of this video, I am a huge fan of competition. And if you are a fan of competition as well, that is a great reason to use CBCS. By using CBCS, you're bolstering that company, you're enabling them to be competitive, you're enabling them to force, to some degree or another, CGC to be better, to do better, to innovate. And in the end, we as the consumer, we as the community that surrounds comics will ultimately benefit. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that people out there receive this video in the spirit in which it was created, which is to be helpful and to help people to make sense of this hobby. As always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I want to personally invite you to do so now. That way you won't miss out on any of the content that comes out from the channel. Take care.